Hey guys, this is Pestillion and welcome to another Escape from Tarkov video. In this video I'm going to cover gear fear, all the ins and outs, why we have it, how to avoid it and combat it.
Let's talk about gear fear. This is something I get asked a lot about during the live streams and in the comments of other guys on this channel. Basically, gear fear is when players are afraid to lose their gear, so they just stack it up in their stash and only hatchet or pistol run.
In this video, I'm going to be giving some of my thoughts and opinions on how to get over gear fear, something that a lot of new players struggle with in the game.
How many of these videos have you watched? How many of these videos fixed your problem? Because I assume that most of you are relatively intelligent, which may be a fallacy in my logic, I'll admit, I'll spare you with a very short definition of gear fear. Gear fear is the anxiety around losing your self-defined good gear through using it in raid. Now, if you're just here for the quick TLDR, I can tell you that the answer to getting over gear fear is to continue to use the gear, lose it, and take good gear back in again. But where's the fun in the simple answer? That answer is no different than the one that's been provided by all the other content creators that I showed just a minute earlier. While sometimes in life it's great to know just the simple answers with simple fixes, that's never really been enough for me personally. I'm going to take you through the psychology around gear fear, and maybe once you understand why your brain is ticking the way that it does, you'll be able to flip the switch and fear off and just play a little bit more carefree. What is loss aversion? Loss aversion is the tendency to prefer avoiding losses over acquiring similar gains. To put this in Tarkov terms, you would rather prefer to keep the single slick in your stash rather than gain a new slick from raid. These are two items of equal value, but the idea of losing a slick that you already possess is greater than the feeling of gaining a new one. This bleeds across into the endowment effect, where we overvalue something that we own, regardless of what it's actually worth, because it's ours. Some of the beauty of immersive survival games is that these pixels on a screen begin to hold real weight and value in our minds. It's a pretty good tell that you are actually immersed in the game if your brain is following the same rules in real life that it does in the game. Survival games, where there's actually a cost to death, typically elicit these strong emotional responses. Compare survival games to Call of Duty. Yes, you can be pissed when you die in Call of Duty and want to yeet your controller into next year, but you aren't upset that you lost the M4 you had. You're not upset about the loss of an item. Clicking the respawn button will pop an exact copy of it back into your hands with all of the same details, intact down to the dust on the scope. There isn't the cost to death that there are in survival games. So while you can completely feel psychological responses in Call of Duty, being pissed, happy, elated that you won a fight or came out of a close call, you don't experience the same loss aversion that you do in survival games. Great, Shudville, thank you for your opinion, but what do the professionals say? Well, Jeffrey Engelstein, he's the author of Achievement Relocked, Loss Aversion in Game Design, and he's also the current president of Mars International, a design engineering firm, says this, quote, "Understanding your inherent biases will help you become a better player. One of the best ways to overcome loss aversion is not just to be aware of it, but to repeat the activity." The professionals that design the games that make you feel uneasy, that have you experience loss aversion, to pause, to fear that loss, tell you to just repeat the activity, to keep going into raids. But we aren't done yet. Who cares if you understand why you hate losing stuff? Let's change our perspective a little bit on the gear itself. And specifically, I want to look at armor. I'm choosing to ignore guns because I don't really believe that guns make the player. I would be more afraid of a skilled player who has a stock AK than a new player with a meta M4. Let me explain this and kind of set this up in a very simple way. I tell you that I'm going to flip a coin. If it lands on heads, I'll give you $10 US. If it lands on tails, you pay me $5. Would you take that deal? Studies show that most people probably won't. But let me give you the same offer but a little bit differently. I'm going to flip a coin 100 times. For each time it lands on heads, I'll pay you $10. And for each time it lands on tails, you pay me $5. Would you take this deal? What studies on this show us is that people are more likely to take the second deal rather than the first because the expected value is much greater, even though the odds for each individual coin flip haven't changed. Think about wearing good gear into raid. in a similar light. In a single raid, it is risky, but if you bring good gear into 100 raids, your expected survival rate gradually increases. You are more likely to survive more shots across more raids than if you were running level 4 or lower armor. Take a look at the hit differences in an armor and ammo test performed by Voxy. A link to his channel and other featured creators will be in the description.
But then some of the armor of the trooper gets absorbed and you can notice it turns into 3 hits.
So as we take a look at the results, you can see that there's a dramatic difference between class armor 4, 5, and 6. Looking on the right side, with level 4 armor, you can take 3 M855A1 shots. If you put on that slick, you can take in upwards of 7. That is 4 additional shots that you can absorb and have the opportunity to return fire and to keep surviving, compared to if you were to wear, class 4 or lower.
And 3 to take down a trooper as 1 was blocked. As we move over to Gen 4, we're also going to be noticing an improvement in Gen 4.
Looking at the results for 7 and 31, you see the same added benefit of wearing higher level armor. Compared to if you were running a trooper, you're only going to take 3 rounds. If you put that slick on, you will survive 5 more shots. Those 5 extra shots might be the difference between you and you creating a bitchy Reddit post about how the Vector is overpowered because it killed you so quick. Maybe it's user error. Instead of only being able to survive 2 or 3 rounds of 7 and 31, you can survive 8. Instead of only being able to survive 2 or 3 rounds of M855A1, you can potentially survive 7. Think about this across 100 raids. How many more rounds are you able to absorb? How many more chances does that give you to take the edge in a fight? I get this is a video that no one asked for, but the reality of Gear Fear is that you will have it until one day you just don't, until you have run into enough raids. And if you were sitting on all this gear that you know you're never going to use, take it into raid and see what you can do with it. If you're sitting on a bounty of rubles because of Bitcoin, spend it, see what it can do. Now is the best wipe to learn new maps. It's the best wipe to learn PvP and to put yourself out there. And it is unlikely that there will ever be a wipe as easy as this one. While people disagree on the overall reason why this wipe has been different, whether you think it's the Bitcoin bumping up to 800k or BSG pumping, whatever it was, 1,000 rounds of BP into all of our stashes, everyone agrees that this is an incredibly easy wipe. Because we won't have a wipe that's this easy again, take advantage of this, go out there and grind and learn. Fight, explore new maps, go labs, push yourself to be a better player because this is the best chance you're going to get. So be lucky, be happy that you're a part of this one.